Hi there. The following video, I'm putting this little thingy in the front here. It makes it a whole lot easier. Watch this video. It's a little long, and I have a couple other videos similar to it, but this video, before you really delve off into the concept of the Muller technique or other finger sort of techniques, this is the video you want to watch because let's put it this way. I finally come up with a phrase or a term to describe what the whole gist of these techniques employ. It's a efficient lever with an oscillating fulcrum. Yes, that is now trademarked by me. Lever with oscillating fulcrum, which boils down to, as we'll explain in the video, is the stick from a fulcrum point, and that fulcrum essentially goes up and down. Anyway, watch the video. It's a little long-winded, but if you really have the basic sort of, it's a simple principle. It is. It's sort of the opposite. You know when you take a rat tail towel and you hit somebody, whoosh, it's the opposite of that kind. Instead of going backwards like whoosh, it's kind of like whoosh, this way. So watch the following video. This video was dedicated to a lady who I had the pleasure of knowing named Michelle McNamara, who's a great lady, whom I remember from the old days, back in the high school days when we were in the 80s, when everything was smooth, but who I'd recently sort of been in contact with. She was giving me some help on a certain thing. Someday I'll have the Bonzoleum of the story of the decade about that, about a subject she was helping me with. Anyway, so this is for her, God love her. She died suddenly. She was 46. Great lady. Anyway, so the following Muller video, check it out. It is extremely helpful when you make your way into the world that is Muller and related concepts. Click, click. Okay, hi there. This is how all the YouTube videos people start. Hi everybody. Today I'm gonna. Here's my headphone. I'm replacing my headphones. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get the. I might get the GK Ultra phones. We'll see. I hear they're terrific. All right. So here's the deal. Today, there's a couple things I want to talk about. What the hell do I want to talk about? Actually, you know what I'm definitely going to talk about? This is a video. Now, I made a video kind of on this before, but it was in the lo-fi era when I didn't have my piping hot condenser microphone. And I certainly didn't have my Phil Collins special. And I absolutely wasn't wearing my cheaters. So here's the deal. These are my observations on Muller-y type technique. Muller-y, Morello-y stuff. Okay? Now this is important. I think part of what happens is a lot of people who know it really well and do it really well, what often happens, and I've said this before, is when they do Muller-y stuff or they do all these techniques that are great, they'll slow it down and do it slow, right? But what happens is they'll say, just keep doing this. Like they really don't get in depth to it, and they don't give, I think, what is a crucial third dimension. I hope this is recording. But here's the deal. Now check this out. Now watch this, okay? My left hand, now real fast, a quick preamble on my left hand, which I'll go into later. I have a familial tremor, which doesn't just shake. But the problem is that so much is important in drumming, right? Whether you use traditional grip, or which I've been working on, or matched, French, American, or German. But then there's also the Sudanese, which is, okay, so here's the deal. Is the flow, the perfectly synchronized, almost like a clock, back and forth from your right side to your left side, or your left hemisphere to your right hemisphere. And I'm dead serious, okay? So many of these things of doing these techniques, especially with the Muller, with the whole wrist thing, is the going back and forth. Okay, I can't stress it enough. I know that to be true. Now, I've had many setbacks, but this is what makes me qualified to say it, because I know the limitation. I'm up against a certain wall, but I've really cut. And you're gonna have to just take my my word for this. because I think if you follow what I'm saying here, it is the doorway to doing these molar-y, Morello-y. It's so funny, Morello, molar-y. But essentially what it boils down to is the mechanics of the stick. Okay, now here's the deal. Again, I've said this before in other videos, but this is a totally dedicated one with better sound. Okay, what happens is when we first start playing the drums, let me see if I can hold this up properly. We always grab the stick and we always go, like when you first start playing, use your arm, right? Like, After a while, you rely more on your wrist. But what happens is we always go like this with the stick, right? Okay? And we always assume when people are doing like double strokes that it's going like this. Dug, dug. Now, what happens is, in the world of high technique, which is now today, I've come to observe that today, even starting out guys, the whole platform of technique has gone up like out of the box. A lot of younger kids, when they first learn the drums, or young adults, right off the bat, they're really into technique. Like what sort of used to be a sort of specialized thing back in the day that only the most ambitious used to do is they'd watch like Dave Weckl videos when they first came out, or Steve Smith, and they'd really attempt to kind of do all that really technical stuff. In those days, that was considered like rocket science. That was like Michael Jordan quality when everyone else was just sort of a Harlem Globetrotter. Dead serious. Nowadays, the whole double strokes and molar-y kind of stuff and doing like, especially with the double bass, like the... all that stuff, like almost as a karate kata, like learning it really slow and then stringing it together in high speed is sort of de rigueur these days, okay? But anyway, as it relates to molar-y type and Morello-y type stuff, what happens is the key to, apart from what I said before, okay, going back and forth, and of course with rudiments and stuff, what you do is you make sure, apart from the mechanics of bringing your weak hand as close as possible, at the very least, up to the skill of your strong hand, as it relates to molar-y and Morello-y stuff, what happens is with two or more strokes in one movement, what happens is the stick, instead of going da, da, it goes, now watch this, I wish I had a computer, it goes, there's like either a push or just a drop where you get a stroke, okay, where the stick on some kind of a fulcrum. People will say, well, it has to be the perfect seesaw. Actually, what most guys say, or gals, it's a little back here. But the point is, bear with me. Okay? Watch. Okay, you get the first straight up rebound. Like it's like a basketball. Bink. Okay? What these folks do is it's like in judo or karate, where it's like, you know, you use... I shouldn't, I know, I'm sorry, I know that's such a crass imitation of like an Asian karate judo guru. But what you do is you use your opponent's momentum and movement against him. Like they come at you, you maximize existing potential and then into kinetic energy. I'm dead serious. But so what happens is, there's a way for you, instead of then pushing the stick down in that plane, what happens is you get an original attack or the original downstroke or the original primary stroke. But what you do is you rely on what happens is when the stick starts going back up, there's a crucial sort of inflection point, if you were to map it out on some kind of a mathematical thing, where you can maximize then a second stroke by the movement of putting the stick back in its original position, we'll say. Okay, so like watch. Okay, now bear with me. What happens there is you get this is the caricature or the basic function thingy demonstration is watch. You're not going, like when we first start out we go, like, but what happens is you let that bounce back. Now what happens is, in the two sort of general ways, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. I mean, they are in their purest form, meaning the molar-y or the Morello-y fingery thing. But the stick, you let it come back up, right? Now what happens here in some fashion is when you then pick when you then kind of the movement down, the movement up, you get the down And when you pick like the hand back up, whatever mechanism you use to pull this back up, check this out. You get the down, and it bounces back, and some way, whether it's the fingers or the wrist, you pull that back up. You get 2 strokes. It's 2 for 1. But it's a very natural motion. It's not necessarily a trick that is devised that you have to work on it, but even fooling around over the years, you'll eventually stumble upon it sometimes. But people don't normally take advantage of it. You know, there's people that eventually over the years obviously figured it out and realize how you can really, through careful practice, really take advantage of it. Because sometimes if you kind of get the gist of it, you sort of think you got it, and then you don't, because it's not tattooed into your cerebral cortex. But here's the thing is what I'm saying. There's generally the way to do it with fingers is kind of what I'm doing here. And then as the stick would normally kind of drop back down anyway, you hasten or amplify the existing potential energy into using your fingers to pull the stick. So now, again, I've said I don't necessarily do it well. I mean, but bear in mind, now let me tell you something. Part of what happens with me, and I'll be totally honest about it, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm Mr. ADD. I'll work on it for a while, and it gets to be torture if I do something so long. I just can't help myself. But another big problem is especially with the molar, it really relies, as I said before, on the back and forth thing. Because of my left hand, apart from just the simple shakes, there really are things sometimes where it's kind of like if I'm doing something, my left hand will almost stop for a split second and then go. Almost like when you used to see Max Headroom, like it'd be like, and then he'd go. Honest to God, I mean, I don't know if it's, I really did eat lead paint as a child. You know, it's funny, I did. I remember. And it had a sweet, chalky taste, okay? I think that is probably what did the neurological damage. Honest to God, it was probably amplified by the fact of my partying through my teenage years into my 21 era. That's another Bonzoleum story. Anyway, but really what happens is the most effective way to practice it when you kind of get the hands down to the basic technique. And always practice one hand at a time with anything. Because what that does is you maximize the effectiveness. I've said before in other videos, when we first start playing the drums, off the bat, you start using your strong hand automatically, usually to play time, you know, to do all the high endurance things and the things you really require the most control, where the left hand or your weak hand is relegated to playing just backbeats or occasional things. So what happens is in 4/4 time, your strong hand's already getting 4 strokes per nugget, right? 1 for 4, 1 for 4. So your strong hand's getting stronger and stronger, more into it, while your left hand's sort of languishing. That's why George Lawrence Stone, a lot of these gurus said, you always got to practice one hand at a time. Even your strong hand, but especially your weak hand, okay? It's just not used to doing it. But once you sort of get a basic kind of understanding of the finger thing, or especially the molar, you get sort of like an exponential betterness at it once you start doing the like. Now I'm sort of caricaturizing it. Now, here's the thing. Now, right off the bat, I know there's a lot of people turn off. Oh, this guy really can't do it. But I can kind of do it. I can actually, if I really play for a while, I can actually do it relatively well. Relatively well. But I know from running up against this wall again and again with my left hand, I think I will. People said to avoid beta blockers. I might give it a whirl. That I can assure you that the going back and forth thing is so important to it. But here's the thing. Anyway, back to the mechanics of the stick. It's all about, there's a primary, and then the second one is kind of a freebie. I mean, it is. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, I always try to think of analogies and metaphors because it's the best way to describe something. So it's a trick of sorts, but it's not a trick like an illusion. It's a trick. It's just a more efficient way of doing something. So here's the thing. One thing that happened too, I remember, God love that guy. He passed away a few years ago. He had the video where he kind of talked like this, Funny, smart guy with that molar. He studied with George Lawrence Stone. And, God, I can't. Chapin. Chopin? Chapin. Dick Chapin? You know, I'm such a skull for not remembering this, but I'm not going to edit this in. You know who he is, okay? I actually met him once. Super nice guy. He reminded me so much of the doctor I had when I was a little kid. He looked exactly the same and talked the exact same. Who actually smoked in the doctor's office during appointments. That was the 70s, kids. Anyway, but the point being, so with the fingers, again, what happens is, this isn't going to be into it, but watch. Down, up. So the best thing to do, even before you is to just fool around, usually on a cymbal, because the cymbal, or the top of the hi-hat, you got the drum too, and as my friend Ryan always says, take the snares off so you can really hear the clarity. But a cymbal's really nice because for whatever reason you seem to get the best, purest rebound. For the top of the, gosh darn it, top of the hi-hat. So if you just basically fool around with it at first, well, let's say with the finger thing, and nothing beats just sitting there fooling around with it. That's how you sort of get used to the whole process. Just like... Now here's the thing, don't get suckered in, even right now with my slight, like, oh my God, I'm on video, this might be on YouTube. I want to go faster to kind of try to impress. That's what messes everything up. That is a golden rule. That's why I think so many technical wizards in drums are these totally laid back dudes. Because they don't have that thing where they're like, I gotta go faster. They run off into some tangent, which I do all the time, and most of us drummers do. But you just sit and you have the patience just to really absorb it and do it. That is the key, okay, is just doing it. Anyway. So again, with the fingers, whether you have sort of a German appearance or a French, like when you see that robot John Riley, God love him, when he does that the triplet thing, like where he's more like this, okay? Either way, I think whatever works for your ergonomics of your hand. So then, again with the fingers, so as a practical thing real fast, just sit on a cymbal or a hi-hat if you're not at all familiar with this, and just kind of practice like let that stick just bounce back up. Just fool around with it for a while. If you can't get it right away, just keep doing it because it's going to happen. Da, da. Now, this is a slight hybrid because I'm pulling with my fingers, but I'm also pulling my hand up a little. Remember, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, like in a Venn diagram, two separate circles. In their purest form, they kind of are. But there will be overlap. There will be, and that's the thing. All the great drummers do that. Okay, so remember that. Anyway, so with the molar thing, what happens is in the pure molar, you're not really, a lot of gals might disagree with this, but ultimately, when I heard Dick Chapin, Harry Chapin, Choppy Chapin, I don't know what the hell's the matter with me. Let me double check and see if this is still, I'm sure it's still recording. So I'll make this real fast. I might have to duct tape something together. Let me double check. Be patient with me, will you? You know, I'm sorry. I don't have a staff, people helping me. Oh, there's a $500 pair of glasses down the drain. How much time we got? You know, we're going to move right on to it. Next segment. Segment number 2, which will be duct taped together in YouTube Editingville. I'm going to knock my coffee over. By the way, it's decaf. Right, hang on. Now we're getting somewhere. I might edit out this getting it. Okay. Pick up my glasses. Put them over there. All right, so with the molar-y thingy, via the hinge of your wrist, look at this. Tunk. I said this in other videos. It's like a light switch. See that? I call it the volcano. What did I call it? The volcano valley. Okay, the V and the volcano, like the count, like V in Sesame Street. Okay? Essentially what happens is you kind of go, okay, with the molar, more or less. This is a basic tenet, right? So watch the stick. Chunk, chunk. That's basically it. I'm sure guys, well, total pedantic kind of gurus would say to literally sit and practice this would probably be so important. But what you could probably do is put a little hole in the wall or something and just literally invent a machine, almost like you'd see at the gym, that would really help you. Because what happens is when you do it slow like this, your body sort of, whether you like it or know it or not, it really sort of digests this motion, where it'll eventually come back to you when you're actually doing it. But that's what happens with the molar, okay? It's not really in the fingers in the pure form. It's literally, if I do it head on, it'll look a lot better, okay? It kind of will a lot more resemble the shape. And now watch. Light switch. Light switch. Mountaintop. Volcano. Okay, now here's the thing. This is something that throws a lot of people off, I think, in my world. Is Chapin said in the video, he said, well, you'd usually see people just practice it with the triplet, because he said it's the easiest to kind of get and even stumble upon yourself if you do the triplet. Because because what happens is that's the purest form of the going from left to right. When we do a triplet, because it's an odd number of strokes, 1, 2, 3, the emphasis shifts from one hand to the other. Ba, 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 left, right, left, okay? But here's the thing. The purest form of it, though, not of the function back, forth, right to left, but of the movement proper, at least the usage of it, is a 2-stroke, not a 3. Just in the sense, because usually it's the 2 that you'll, I think, use the most. Because even statistically, most songs and stuff are in deuces, not trois. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's the same on. Just trust me. So what happens is ultimately you have the, is like this. Strike, up, strike. Okay, and you can sit, and all these folks like Chapin and I'm sure Muller and all these guys back in the day, and George Lawrence Stone, they would really, back in like the 20s and 30s and stuff, there wasn't the internet. There wasn't TV. There was barely radio. You had a lot of free time. If you weren't working, you were reading books or running outside and playing. You weren't distracted by Seinfeld or Togetherness, which was just canceled. God damn those people at HBO. So you had a lot of time on your hands. So you got good at this stuff pretty fast. Do you know what I'm saying? You kind of had nothing else to do but do hobbies and stuff you really like to do. Whereas nowadays you have, Anyway, you get my point? So that's the thing. So what I think is my garden variety person who likes my video isn't necessarily a technical guru. A lot of them are. But, I've been trying to, my point is obviously I want to get better technique, right? I will say again, a major hurdle with me is my left hand. It is not an excuse. I can assure you I've been busting my arse to kind of get this together. Okay? In fact, what happens is if I spend a lot of time doing just my left hand, in the short term it really inflames it. For a couple days and stuff, it's really funky. But then again, like after working out with weights, after you work out really hard and the next day you're really sore and stuff, and God forbid you do any more weights because you can't do anything, after a few days, suddenly you're good. Because what happened is those tears in your muscles healed. You kind of moved on to the next. Gonna happen. Much the same when we used to have gigs. When I used to gig a lot, I used to hate rehearsing a day or two even before the gig because I felt like it was so fresh in your brain by the time if you did it too close to the gig. When the gig came, you were still in sort of a refractory period where your quality of playing and performing, whether on the drums or as a cohesive unit as a band, wasn't at its top potential. You needed a day or two for it to sort of marinate. And I'm dead serious about this. I know I'm crazy, but I think I don't know. But anyway, so here's the deal. Again, so if you sit at the drum like your basic kind of drummer guy, just sit and fart around with this, okay? Because again, so much of us, especially if we listen to rock and stuff, you get kind of so into like seeing on TV, like a lot of guys just kind of bashing TV, in video or film, where really there's a whole kind of ergonomic thing to it, okay? Like that, like Freddie Gruber, had this thing. He wasn't even necessarily the best player, but he really had like this theory of really like an organic, totally relaxed way of playing, where you really maximize your movement. Like when I first really heard like great technique, because at the I didn't go to clubs and stuff, jazz clubs. I used to listen to traditional jazz on the radio sometimes because I really kind of liked the way what I really got out of it is you'd sort of hear like Barry Winograd and these guys like, hey, and here's Dizzy Gillespie from the Palladium, August 1954. I love that ASMR stuff, right? It was sort of ASMR back in the day before there was the internet and people even called it ASMR. But I remember watching Omar Hakim in the Sting video, okay? The shite that dude was playing, but the way he looked, he didn't look like he was like, "Urgh." He was so rubbery and the sticks kind of seemed to be doing all the work. Remember back in those days too, it was kind of hard to find Buddy Rich stuff too. Anyway, so the point is, so much of, I think, technical drumming, probably with anything technical, where you're a karate guru or whatever, it's kind of the opposite of sort of the I think we as Americans kind of view stuff in a reactionary way sometimes. Is it always has to be sort of like adrenaline, like, okay, here we go. What it actually is, it's sort of the opposite. It's counterintuitive, actually. When you do really technical, I think, and speed stuff, you actually have to mentally and physically go to the opposite way. Okay, that's why, a lot of these great karate dudes and these people are so chill. Like when you see, I love watching that clip of Steve Gadd do the, I know people blow me shite about this. It's been a while since I've done it. Don't blow me crap about it. Really, it's been a few months. But when you see that video of him doing it, apart from the fact he's probably stoned out of his gourd, God bless America, he's like, God, I can't even, hang on. When you watch him do it, watch him actually do that. How, really, all fun aside, poking, look at how relaxed he is. That's the whole key to this stuff, okay? So anyway, to my garden variety Bonzoleum fan, God bless America, just sit and fart around. Instead of just going berserk or doing just sit for a while on your cymbal. Just go with your fingers first. Just kind of throw the stick and sort of let the stick just come back. Get used to that feeling. Again, just do it over and over again. Remember, babies don't learn to walk in 2 minutes. Takes them a few months, right? They don't come out of the womb like, hello, my baby, hello, my darling, hello, my ragtime, okay? So again, give it a whirl with your fingers. Where the F it? My gosh darn it. Okay. So just fool around with that. Throw it up. It'll just bounce back to you. At first, you might do it for a while, but eventually you'll get one. It'll be like, and eventually you won't be probably paying attention. It'll just be like, when you get one of those, close your eyes and just what you do is get used to that feeling in your hand. And for a while, like all the guys, this is nothing new. All the folks in these videos, the gurus that can really do it, they'll always tell you that. Sit and just go, sort of take that rebound, like, just let it go back, okay? And after you kind of learn to do it, you think, God, how did I not know how to do this? So again, what happens with the fingers is the hand kind of goes down, or you can even just drop, from here you could just drop the stick, but your hand kind of goes down. Like they say, what did Chapin say? Kind of like you have something sticky on your fingers and you're kind of going like this. It is. Your hand motion kind of is that, okay? Actually, it really is. The hand goes down, but then the hand comes up, okay? So I guess so this is sort of a mix. There is, it's not purely finger, but it's not, you're not actually whipping the whole hand, relying just on the wrist. But your wrist kind of goes down. But you pick the wrist back up, which even on it's like my left hand does it better, like, but what happens is in the nature of it, see, look at that shake. When I just kind of move naturally, if I go like this, watch. You're just kind of pulling your hand back up, right? It's not the downstroke of getting that sticky stuff like Chapin set off, but a very important thing which he never mentioned was lifting your hand back up. Look, when you lift your hand back up, see how your fingers sort of close, your fist sort of closes? Well, those fingers in the back are assisting that stick in snapping back, okay? Anyway, if you keep practicing that, eventually you get a speed and an unconscious efficiency at it. Okay, so that's just the hand. Fool around the hand. Sticky stuff off, sticky stuff on, sticky stuff off, sticky stuff on. Just fool around with that, because after a while, they'll kind of be like I get with it. Okay? That's what kind of happens, okay? But again, but the same thing is, when I first started out with this video, remember I said we always want to go like this. The stick essentially goes, when people do that cool pencil trick? Like, I don't even know if I can do it. Say, like, you know what I mean? There's nothing better, I think, that represents ultimately the pure mathematics and physics of this, what the hell I'm talking about, the sticks, is the pencil trick. Okay, with this, I'm probably, you know what I mean, where this looks rubbery? What happens is, look how the stick is going. That you want your hand to actually hold the stick, but to least interfere with this action. That's the whole point. Trust me. I'm right. Gurus will say, even though he's kind of a freak show and he can't really do it that well, he's right. Okay? So whether or not it's this fulcrum thingy is occurring in your hand, or your hand is just the vehicle to actually hold the stick, and it's really all occurring not just See what happened, not just here with your wrist is like the fulcrum, but two things ultimately happen with it. Not only does it go like this, but this fulcrum goes up and down. Bang. See that? Much like a choo-choo train. Honest to God. So the whole key of all these molar-y things is whatever, if it's with your fingers, Morello-y, or your wrist, pain on, pain off, like the Karate Kid. I'm not kidding. It all boils down to this motion of the stick. As in Boys and Company C. Remember that. Okay? So let's end with the little drums. Drummy in the night. Drum, drum, drum. Drum, drum, drum. Drums rule. Yes, they do. If you're not a drummer, then sniff my poop. Woo! Keep coming back. More videos on the way. Again, I'm getting my GK headphones. I think Ultraphones. I'm going to try that. And I can play along with certain covers now. There are certain Led Zeppelin songs you can put on YouTube and get away with it. In fact, you can monetize it and just give half the money to the Warner Chappell, Jimmy Page kind of people. Okay, look forward to that. I'm looking forward to it. I tried it with my other headphones I have, and I just can't do it because I can't hear the music over the drums. It's annoying. But anyway, keep coming back. More videos on the way. Thank you.